Welcome back to another episode of the Wild Faith Podcast. Today we have a special guest. We have Ricky Brule in the house, and I'm joined by my co-host Evan Bungham as well. So, boys, how are we doing tonight?
Good.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
We appreciate you hopping on, man. And we were just kind of joking before we hopped on here. It's kind of weird now to say that, you know, there's a couple Minnesota boys on this podcast, and I'm not one of them anymore.
Yeah,
but
that's wild. You're a cheesehead now.
No, we're not going that far.
There's
a line. There's a line.
I would have to. I might disown you if that ever happened.
My son, my oldest, so he just turned 5, and he every time he sees like a Packer, which is often because we live in La Crosse now,
Yeah.
and like sees like a Packer sign, like as we go by like a bar or whatever, because there's a lot here, and he's like, "Oh, boo, Packers!" I'm like, "Oh, buddy." He starts kindergarten in a couple of weeks. I'm like, you'll figure it out.
Getting a few scraps, maybe.
Oh,
Yeah, right. Some schoolyard scraps over Packer Vikings. Gotta love it.
Funny.
That's great.
Yeah, but no, man, we really appreciate you hopping on today, and we just kind of want to get to know you a little bit more. That's like what we like to do here when we have people on, is just get them to tell their story and kind of how, you know, they got into hunting and where they are today. So I mean, what would be your kind of, you know, your leaping point into hunting, you know, going back I'm sure as far back as a kid?
Yeah, I mean, I was privileged enough to grow up, you know, with hunting. For all intents and purposes, I'm a city boy, but you know, I just have always been drawn to the outdoors, camping, fishing. You know, my core group of friends were all Boy Scouts, and so we'd go, you know, hike trails and grouse hunt, you know, back when you could, you know, carry a shotgun around when you were still a teenager. You know, parents just kind of, you know, latchkey
Good old
kids,
days.
right? They just kind of
Yep.
let us do what we wanted to do as long as we weren't doing drugs or doing thievery type things. But
Right.
yeah, so I really kind of grasped onto that at an early age. And then, you know, me and my dad, as far as like things to do, we would do some golfing. He wasn't really a very good golfer, but that was just kind of our thing.
Nice.
And then he would go up to Lake of the Woods with his buddies and do fishing, and they'd go hunting and stuff. And I went up there once, and there wasn't a whole lot of any hunting or fishing. It was just a lot of drinking and grilling, hanging out.
Yeah.
So I kind of figured out what that eventually meant, you know. But yeah, it was just he saw like the glimmer in my eye. We would go drive around and just look for deer, and I just absolutely loved that. So started hunting right away as soon as I could when I was 12 with a rifle, and hunted with him for many years. You know, just back then it was like you had 2 weekends a hunt. You guys probably know this because of Minnesota, but it was like the first weekend you had Saturday and Sunday, and the second weekend you had Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. That was it. That's all the days you were able to hunt. So it's just like the anticipation, you know, the night before, just laying there, can't sleep, just excited to get out in the woods. And so that's where all of the passion started for me. I think it wasn't so much that my dad really enjoyed it. I didn't find this out until later in life, but it was more, he saw the glimmer in my eye. And so then he took me out to do those things. And so really kind of fostered that. And so I blame him for where I'm at today, which isn't right. But
Yeah.
so yeah, so that's kind of where I got that start. And then naturally just I primarily bow hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's turkeys or deer or bear or elk or whatever it may be. I haven't hunted with a gun in over a decade.
Oh, wow.
Well, I should say big game anyways.
Yeah.
I did shoot a turkey a couple years ago with a shotgun.
Nice.
Because I got a little burnt out I was on the turkey struggle bus.
I'm riding it for 2 years, man.
Yeah. So
It's
I
a
was like,
thing.
that's it. That's it. I'm taking a shotgun out and I'm blasting one in the head. So
Nice.
Yep. When would you say you really kind of took a deep dive into bow hunting specifically?
That would be when I was in my mid-20s. I started working for Sportsman's Warehouse in Fargo.
Okay.
And so naturally it was just like I needed to upgrade my bow. And so I was shooting a PSE Polaris from the 80s.
Nice.
And
Solid bow.
early 90s or something. I can't remember how old. It was pretty old. And then so I upgraded to a 2005 Bowtech Allegiance, and so that really got like just the difference. When I was shooting, I was like, oh my god, this is incredible.
Hmm.
How you could group and how well they could shoot. I just felt like a sniper, and so I got super into it. And when I was working for Sportsman's Warehouse, I was working in the waterfall section. They put me in the section I knew the least about, which I thought was wild, but then at the same time it makes sense, right? Like that's the best way to learn. So
Mm, good
I spent a
point.
lot of time throwing shotgun shell boxes around and cutting tops off and doing all that, but it was right next to the archery counter, and so I was always over there, like hanging out. Teach me how to tune a bow, like asking the technicians to like I was watching them and paying really close attention. So I've been wrenching on bows for almost next year will be 20 years.
Dang.
Um, and so yeah, just that's kind of where I really took the deep dive. And then my friend Ben started taking me out west. We were going out to North Dakota and hunting out there quite a bit, hunting mule deer back when you could just apply and get the tag no matter what. You know what I mean? It was
Mhm.
like we would hunt every single year out there. So that's what really got me the deep dive into archery and into bow hunting.
That's awesome. Yeah, I tell you what, getting that first bow that took your confidence level to like there and then gets you hooked. Like for me, that was kind of, I didn't really get you know, I guess I didn't, I kind of started with, I'm trying to think, I had a Nova Extreme
Mm,
PSE and then got a trad bow and then got out of bow hunting, got back into it with shooting trad again. And that was like that inspiration that kind of got me geeked out again, where it was just like, this is awesome.
yeah.
But with all that for you, then you kind of close it out there. You're talking about Western hunting. Was that something that sparked your passion for archery hunting even more so from like the hunting aspect of just kind of introducing that new style of hunting?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you go from ambush style sitting in a tree, and I can't tell you how many days, I would sit in the tree stand with my dad, and we would just freeze our butts off. We never had like a real nice, classy one where you see some of those now. We didn't have heaters, nothing. We toughed it out, and I still ask myself that question to this day: why do I do it? But then when you have success, and success is different for everybody, and especially as I get older, just actually spending time in the woods is success to me, but
Oh, for sure.
just everything that encompasses, hanging out with your buddies. And I tell you what, some of the strongest relationships and friendships that I have in this world now are ones that I had successful deer hunts with,
Hmm.
because that connection you have with, it's like a primal thing that I can't explain. It's just something
Yeah.
I think that's just ingrained in us from
Hmm.
from our ancestors. And so it's just, I try to explain it to my wife, and I'm like, I
I hear you on that.
It's such a privilege to get like Luke and I have talked about before on here, but like the group you take the Boundary Waters with you, or the group
Mhm.
that you take going out west with you, it's like if that first trip goes good, or like you talking about having a successful hunt, it's like you were
Mhm.
bonded together for almost like life. It feels like where it's like, all right, we're gonna be hunting buddies, and I will see you every fall. Or it
Yeah.
goes the complete opposite. It's like I don't want to see you again.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right about that. It'll make or break it, for
Mhm.
sure. There's some, I've done a few hunts where I kind of went in a little blind, where somebody's like, hey, we should go on this hunt. And I've never hunted with them before.
Mhm.
And, sometimes it doesn't turn out the way you kind of hope that it would.
Yeah.
And to your point, like those relationships probably haven't really, they don't really last, but it's just that thing. Like you got to grind it out with each other to really know whether you can get along. If
Mm.
you can't, I mean, it's cliche, but if you can't handle me at my worst, you
Yeah.
can't handle me at my best. You know what I mean? And so, it's reciprocal. I'm the same way, right? Like it's just, sometimes people are just a little bit too much, and it's like, I don't need you. Um, I don't need that in my life. So, and you don't need my stress in your life. So let's just, you do your
Call it a
thing, I'll do
day.
my thing, and we'll get along just fine.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So I
Mhm.
mean, just kind of going off of that. So you kind of left it right there where you were talking, you're just finishing up at Sportsman's, kind of just started your journey of going out west. And kind of where I guess it kind of brings you today, you're kind of talking about some new roles. So just tell us a little bit about the new role that you're in, the company you're working with now, and what you're doing with Vapor Trail.
So, when I lived in Duluth right out of high school, I went to UMD for graphic design was my major emphasis,
Nice.
and so that's my major background, anyways. And then, uh, it's kind of a long story how I ended up in Fargo, but from Sportsman's Warehouse, then I advanced and moved to the Coon Rapids store, moved into management there, and then was working. And so because Vapor Trail is so close to that location, and we were, uh, we had a lot of customers coming in. We were selling Vapor Trail strings for them, and so I'd just drive up the road and pick them up instead of having them shipped. So then I started going in there and getting to know the guys that owned it, the previous owners. Got to know them really well. Became really good friends with them. And then Sportsman's Warehouse shut down 2009. I got laid off, and so right away I just started going and building bowstrings for Vapor Trail, and then I was doing graphic design stuff on the side, and then it just slowly over the course of like a decade kind of transitioned from I worked my way into a management and into a leadership role, but then transitioned more into me doing full-time graphic design
Hmm.
work. Now I'm the creative director, so I do everything on the creative side and on the marketing side as well.
It's
So,
awesome.
and that's going next year. It'll be 20 years at Vapor Trail.
It's
Wow.
crazy. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say that I'm not having fun, but it is a job.
It's true.
So, and there's something about like your greatest passion being your
Mm,
job as well, where it's like I've gotten real good at being able to separate the two.
Hmm.
mm,
But there was a time, there's a period of time where you get so ingrained in it and you're so involved with making sure that everybody else is taken care of and all of that. And it kind of gets to a point where I'm just like, you know what, I don't really want to do that anymore. Like I want to continue to work here and I want to continue the legacy of the original owners and who started this. But not if it's going to take me away from
Yeah.
my passion and what I love. And so I need to, I got to a point where I had to transition over to what I currently do, or I couldn't
Hmm.
have stayed there any longer.
So how do you balance that? Like you're kind of talk about there, like your personal passion, your personal pursuits. How do you balance, all that content creation, strategy, all that stuff, but still like not get burnt out with, you know, what you love to do?
Well, I, I mean, I think one of the hard parts about where I was at was just managing people
Mm,
and and managing people of upcoming generations where we don't see eye to eye on everything. And I'm also not the kind of guy where, I don't want to be the kind of crack the whip, do as I say, not as I do. I want to be a leader, not a boss.
hmm
And admittedly, I was having a really difficult time leading the up and coming people that were
Hmm.
coming into our organization. And so I had to step away from that because it was just getting to be too stressful.
hmm
It was a 18-hour a day job. You leave, come home, and then you're getting phone calls, and then it's just it never stops. It's just
Right.
constant. And especially when you get into our busy season, which we're actually currently in the middle of right now. And so at me as a creative director, my busy season is all year round. So I'm always grinding. We're always, trying to figure out the next best thing. When things slow down as far as production goes with product, now we're looking at what's going to be the next product, R&D, all that kind of stuff. But what's helped me balance it more is again like being able to kind of step away from the leadership role with the production side of things, and now I'm focused strictly on creative. So I'm just working with creative people all day, and for me, that really kind of helps fill my bucket a little bit. You know what I mean? Being able to bounce ideas off of each other, and we've got uh, I've got a small team of people, so it's just like four of us. So it's great, and we all work very cohesively, and that's what's helped me help kind of transition me into a less stressful position,
Hmm.
and then it gives me a little bit more time to kind of focus on just even giving me the brain capacity to go, you know what, you should step back a little bit and just go shoot your bow. You got a 20-yard range within 50 feet of your desk. So go do that,
Perfect.
So that's how it's gotten a lot better.
Nice, man. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's awesome. And I mean, with that too, I mean, it's one of those things where it's you got to grind yourself to get to that point where you can have that. But like, what a fun opportunity that you're at now, of where you're just solely focusing on telling cool stories and kind of building that out.
Yeah.
Maybe just like dive into that a little bit too, because I mean, like, I eventually want to get into talking about the short film that you get to be a part of, which is epic and awesome. It's like one of my dream hunts. But just tell me a little bit, kind of that creative process and that storytelling process, really just telling like authentic stories.
Yeah, it's been kind of a whirlwind, right? Because it started with, and I hope the owner doesn't listen to this. And it's not because it's going to get me in trouble, but it's because I've been running on a shoestring marketing budget since 2020 when I took on this whole operation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really challenged me to be creative and come up with creative ways to create more awareness of our brand, all those kinds of things, kind of flip flop things a little bit, and try to transition it away from a sale to more of a, this is the life that you want, or
Mhm.
this is what you need to have that success, instead of it being a sales pitch, that kind of thing. We want to really create emotion with our customers. We want to create that customer journey. And it's really taken a long time to get to where I'm at now, simply because I've had $0, so to
Mhm.
speak. I mean, I really have not. And I shouldn't say that, the first couple of years we had a good chunk that we played around with a little bit. Um, but we had to kind of scale back some of that money. Didn't really, it went to the marketing director we had at the time. He's a great guy, but he's really old school, and so a lot of money was going into a lot of publication ads and things
Mhm.
like that, which you need to do, but it was unbalanced. We didn't have enough going into digital and stuff, and so our marketing budget got dried up pretty quick. And so then it was like, all right, well, now we need to take a boots on the ground approach and figure out how we can do this on the cheap. And so that's where the podcast started,
Mm.
something we had been talking about for a couple of years, but so that's where that started. And then suddenly I'm like, oh, this is what my calling was, right? I mean, again, it's not, we're no Joe Rogan. We're not like, you know, making tons of money doing it, but being able, like you said, what I discovered is that I love writing, and I love that storytelling aspect of it, right?
Mhm.
And I love
Mm.
having these conversations with experts in the field, and I think, a lot of our listeners like to hear that too. They like to know, like, the behind the scenes stuff, like what's going on in your everyday, like, oh, you have kids, that's cool, things like that. So, and we just wanted to inspire the conversations that are had at the archery range, and it can be anything. Most of the time it's probably archery related,
Mm-hmm.
but it can be just, current affairs, all kinds of different things. And so that's where our podcast was inspired by. And so that kind of fostered in some of this writing and this networking and talking with more people. And over the years, we already had a good platform to launch off of, because we had already established so many relationships in the industry. And so we came out of the gate running, and it's just been a blast ever since. And then a conversation that I had with a good buddy of mine then turned into another podcast that we call the Don't Die Rusty podcast. And that's a separate thing that I do, that me and my business partner Rick Hansen do separately. And this is all through archery, right? It's all
Mm-hmm.
archery related. And I can't thank the archery space enough, because, like, I live it, eat it, breathe it every day, and I have for like the last 20 years, and it's given me so much, and
Mm.
it's created so many, like, just amazing relationships and conversations like the one I'm having with you guys right now.
Love that. Would you say, I mean, because I can remember like growing up as a kid watching, insert, TV hunting personality here, where it's just kind of the same old, lots of ads for stuff. And then, obviously they shoot a deer every single time. When do you think that really flipped to more of what you're talking about, that
Mhm.
storytelling, that cinematography stuff?
Gosh, I don't some of the guys that have always really kind of inspired me,
Mm-hmm.
um, Jason Matzinger,
Mm.
Donnie Vincent,
Mhm.
Yep.
um,
Donnie's a good guy.
way back in the day before any of that, was Full Moon Productions, which was Anthony Dixon and Sean Monson, and they were a couple of the guys, like they were doing some pretty low budget stuff, but they were taking like 110-yard shots at mule deer and
Dang.
laying them down. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
just Sean's nickname was Launch. In
That's a
all
cool name.
fairness, he's like 8.5 feet tall and has like a 40-inch draw length, so he can get away
You
with
can
it.
get away with that.
But that was like the first when I saw the stuff that they were doing, and I'm just like, this is cool. Like they're not jamming product down your throat.
Yeah.
It's just
Mhm.
really cool stuff. And so those guys really, I kind of felt like, you look at like Donnie's films and Matzinger's films, and just like the cinematography that's involved, you're looking at the shots. It really helps bring you into that environment,
Yeah.
where most of the shows that you kind of see it again, I don't want to say it's all a sales pitch. That stuff is necessary. I
Mm-hmm.
realize that, we're going to talk about the short film, and you can't make it happen without money. And the only way to make money is to, again, selling some product, but
Yep.
it's how you do it, right? How do you go about doing it? And granted, you were saying what you said about the kill, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I feel like, I don't know, it's hard to say, but I know why some of these guys get themselves into trouble. You know what I mean?
Come obsessed with
Mhm.
the
Like
kill.
doing some things where they're maybe shouldn't have done that to get the kill.
Mm-hmm.
Because ultimately in the end, it's what a lot of people want to see. I don't want to say everybody, but
Nope.
ultimately
Yep.
I think that's the thing. But again, when we went into creating this film, it's like we know we told everybody on board that we know there's a very high probability that it's not going to happen. Now, I don't want to manifest that, right?
Yep.
But I don't care how much experience and how long you've been doing it. You know what I mean? This is you know, I'm the average Midwesterner that gets out for a couple of weeks once a year. I got kids. I got, I don't have a ton of money where I can go out and do all these kinds of things. So that was kind of what we wanted to portray. We
Mhm.
don't want you to feel like you have to, be wearing Sitka gear and all the most expensive stuff in order to go out and have fun
Mm-hmm.
and have a great experience and make memories that are going to last a lifetime.
Mm.
The chasing the deer is just like the extra part.
Oh
It's
yeah.
the
Oh yeah.
bonus stuff, So that was kind of the message that we wanted to portray. And of course, if I had the success in killing a deer, well, that probably would have elevated it even more. Uh, but still, that's what we wanted to do, is we wanted to tell that story of what usually happens.
Yeah. Right. So go into. I mean, this is a perfect segue to talk about the film, which is called Form the Storm. Um, Going into that a little bit, but before we do that, I just want to like touch on that because it's such a key aspect that I know a lot of people just miss out on. Is what do you think that is where when you're striking out? I mean, I haven't shot what would be considered a super nice buck in probably 5 years, 4 or 5 years, and I still go back and I bow hunt every single year, like
Mhm.
as much as I possibly can. So, what do you think that drive is, or where do you think that you know what I mean? Like you kind of alluded to it a little earlier too, but
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it's the experiences.
mm-hmm,
Um, I've done that hunt solo before, and I enjoyed it. But then there's something about having good people with you,
Hundred
and
percent.
and like we talked about earlier, you got to be a little bit careful about that. I think you got to be real careful about who you pick uh, to be with you, and in that film, I hunted with a good friend of mine, Nate Axman, and that's the first time I've ever hunted with him.
mm,
But knowing him and all, I've shot, total archery challenges with him. I've known him for quite some time. And then also through other, I met him through other people. So we just knowing who he was, I without a doubt knew that we were going to have a great time. Um, and we did, you know. So again, it's just those people that you're hanging out with, and I'm excited because I'm going to be going back out again this year,
Nice.
and we've got an even bigger crew, an even better
Nice.
crew. And so yeah, hopefully we can get some redemption.
Are you going back out there with the what is the company called? Is it the All for One with Damien?
Damon will be with me. He'll have a camera. We're not planning it out the way we did last time. And to be honest, Form the Storm was actually like a little bit of an accident.
Hmm.
Mm.
But it just became what it was, right? Like we just started talking, and then it kind of just started to snowball, right? And then all of a sudden it became
Literally.
this film,
Yeah.
right? And so now we're in this position where it's like, okay, all right, well, okay, this is what we're doing. And so I somehow miraculously drew the any deer tag again 2 years in
Nice.
a row, which never had.
That's
It's a 10% chance.
buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah, I applied, but I knew assumed I wasn't going to get it. My plan was to hunt bears in Minnesota this year. I did draw a tag in Minnesota for bear, but I'm going to forego it because my focus is on North Dakota now. Uh, um, but where was I going with that?
Just talking about the film with Damon
Yeah.
and those guys.
So of course I drew it. Two other guys that work at Vapor Trail drew it.
Nice.
So there's three of us. Plus I know about 5 other people that drew as well.
Dang.
And so, but I don't know. I think it's going to be, it'll be me, Damon. We'll have Paul Vincent come out again if the dates work out okay. And mostly for asset creation. So photos, that sort of thing. We'll be getting video as well. And then I'm not going to say if, when I kill the deer,
There you go.
Love it.
then we'll make a film and then we'll see who wants it.
Yeah.
Mm.
If anything, and if nobody, that's fine. We'll probably enter it into a couple of film festivals or something like that. But
Love it.
but it just it creates an opportunity. We'll be creating assets for Vapor Trail
Mhm.
and Stoker Eyes, which is our sister company that we also own, and then our other partners. I'm partnered up with Dialed on the sights, and then Prime on the bow side of things, and then we're running all Sig Sauer optics. And we're running Go Hunt, the Go Hunt app. So
Nice.
we'll see kind of what we can do from there, but mostly we just want to focus more on the hunt, and if there's success, then we'll maybe do something with it all then. But
Love that. So being like that's a hunt that you're familiar with. Like, what is your mindset outside of killing a buck going into this hunt this year?
I guess right now where my mind is at is I'm very heavily focused on shooting,
Mm.
and I don't want to miss an opportunity, even if it means I have to take a long shot.
Yeah, for sure.
And so what I'm saying is, 10 years ago, I shot a lot and I felt really comfortable shooting out to 80 yards, no problems. My second mule deer I shot in North Dakota was actually at 92 yards.
Dang.
But then I made a shift, right? I was like, well, I want to get closer. You know what I mean? I want to increase my skills as far as like stalking and all that kind of stuff. And so I really started to focus on that. And then as I got busier, I shot less. So my effective range, I'm not comfortable shooting that far. And so even last year, I was grouping well at 80, which means I'm feeling comfortable taking a shot at an animal at maybe 60, right? We'll see what the conditions are, right? North Dakota,
Yeah.
never stop. The wind never stops,
No.
right? So when I took that really long shot, it was like one of those rare days where there was no wind. But the double-edged sword with that is stalking in close is next to impossible because the grass is all dead and dry and everything's crunching and cracking and everything. So it's really hard to get in close. So I'm really focused on shooting again this year. I've been shooting I'm already starting to shoot broadheads. They're grouping well at 80 so far. Hopefully we can start reaching out to 100 here within the next couple of days. Again, just depending the time, right? There's
Yeah.
not a lot of places you can shoot 100 yards, right? So I can't just poke out the backyard and shoot that distance. So that's really my focus right now. My mindset going into it is I want to be able to take a long shot if I have to,
Mm-hmm.
if the conditions are right. And so I just want to make sure that that my equipment is dialed
Yeah.
as best as it possibly can, and that my mind and that my body is physically able to do so.
For people that haven't watched the film yet, highly recommend it. Go watch it. But maybe outside of the film and just the experience, I mean, obviously you've a pretty tried and true Western hunter from, your pedigree from being a young man to where you're at today. Like, I know for me, mule deer hunting is my poor man's elk hunt. It really has been. And for the
Mm-hmm.
last 12 years of my life, it's hold something that's just been completely near and dear to my heart. And this is the first year that I've not gone out west, and it feels so weird.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
just describe that to other people, like outside of, the camaraderie aspect, which is probably my favorite too. But like, what is it out in the prairie, out in the coulees and just out in just the nastiness of that terrain? Like, what is it that draws you back every year?
It, I think some of the memories is a part of it, but also just really enjoying nature
Mm.
and the silence and the quiet. It could be anywhere. Like you mentioned the Boundary Waters, one of my favorite places to be. And so there's that, right? Like the busyness of life, the noise that's constant, right? And then to be out there and that all just kind of goes away, right? And then it's not like, oh my gosh, okay, I got to get up, get breakfast for the kids, and then shoot, I woke up late and I can just grab a granola bar and hit the road, and now there's people driving in front of me slow and I'm mad about it, and you
Yep.
know, none of that. It just, and of course you might have some moments, right, where you're like trying to haul to your spot or something like that when you're hunting, but it's just, you have a task at hand. Things are just, it's a simpler life, and I think that's a really big part of it. And in those moments, like when I hunted in Idaho, I hunted elk in Idaho in 2019, and I just remember, you'd spend your day kind of, walking around in the hills, and at some point you end up way down at the bottom, and it's getting dark, and you're like, man, and you're looking up that hill, and you're like, I gotta get all the way up
Gotta
that
go all
hill
the way up.
in the dark. And it's just, and it's this wild country that I've never been in, and you're just like, oh my goodness. And so you just start going, and you get up, a tenth of the way, and you stop and you take a break, and then you're just like looking around, and it's completely dark, but you're looking at the stars, and you're hearing elk bugling, and it's just like, it brings a tear to your eye, man.
Mhm.
It's just the most amazing, incredible thing. And so, and despite the struggle, I mean, I didn't even struggle. If I had killed an elk, that's when the struggle would have began, right?
Yeah.
But um, there's something about how we all embrace the suck, right? That's what we
Mhm.
like to call it. And so there's something about that too, you know what I mean? Like riding that storm, getting through the storm, and when you come out on the other end, just like the feeling that you get, you know. I mean, it again, it all, I feel like I'm just saying all these obvious things, it's like when you're working out or whatever, or you do a long run, you just, when you come out of it's a struggle, but when you come out, like just that dopamine hit that you get and
Mhm.
that feeling that you get is just, it's amazing.
Well, I think that's the cool thing, especially with the film that you guys did, but like authentic storytelling of like bringing those viewers through that experience. Cause like you talked about embracing the suck, like you don't know what that feels like until you've been there and you go through it. And then the first time you go through it, the next year, then you're like, oh, I kind of want to get that again. And then all of a sudden it's like you strive to searching for embracing the suck, where it's like, I
Yeah.
want to go through that hard time.
hmm Yeah. And like, not to give too much away on the film, like, please go and watch it. It was a lot of fun to make. And Damon is just unbelievable.
He's
Him
incredible.
and Paul's just incredible behind a camera as well. They just did a fantastic job. And but it's just, yeah, there's, right when we got there, it was like, boom, we got a target buck, let's go. This is, I mean, if I had done things right, I'd had a dead buck on the ground within the first hour of our hunt, which
Mm.
wouldn't have made for as good of a story. So I'm glad it didn't happen. But it's just, again, it's one of those things where, um, you know, all of a sudden the weather makes a change. It gets super cold out. And then you spend like the next 3 days just frigid cold, can't find anything, can't see any deer, nothing. It just, everything shuts off. And you're like, what the heck? But you just keep going. You just, you wake up in the morning, it's like, let's go. You walk, you run from the hotel door to the truck so your hands don't freeze by the time you get there. That's how cold it was. And you're all bundled up. It's like, man, if I see a deer, I don't even know if I'll be able to draw my bow because I got so much gear on. But there's just, I don't know, there's something about it. It's like, you know, going out for a hike, but you got a bow in your hand that just elevates
Was that your first experience
everything.
running around with like an actual crew filming you?
Yeah. Yep.
How was that experience for you as like the hunter?
At first I was kind of thinking like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this, and I'm also not real big on being in the spotlight
Mhm.
so much, but it's like, but again, we're on a budget, so I got to be the talent too,
Yep.
um, and I just happen to have the tag.
Yeah.
Before we started this whole thing, we knew we wanted to do something. But the intention wasn't for it to be me as the talent. We were just looking for somebody that they could go film. And then I drew that tag. So I was like, okay, well that I guess that solves that question, right? Or answers that question. Um, but yeah, the first day was a little strange because I had those two revolving around me. It was like, they were like satellite planets, just like, running up to get in front of me and then coming back around. And I'm just going, how are we ever going to get close to a deer
Yeah.
with this going on? Um, but when we had communicated, it's like, well, there's certain shots that we just need to get initially,
Mhm.
and then we can kind of use that content throughout the film. And so again, that first day, like beautiful clear skies, like the sunset was just money. It was just perfect, so these guys are like, oh, we got to get this shot. We got to get, so it was, but once those shots got done, then that was able to kind of slow down a little bit with some of that. And we were able to focus more on like the hunting and the
Mhm.
deer and all that kind of stuff. So at first I was apprehensive, but in the end it wasn't so bad. And especially it helps to have, guys that Paul doesn't have as much hunting experience, so he stayed back on the stocks, but Damon was over my shoulder and he's done plenty of hunts with other guys
Yeah.
like elk hunts. He's filmed for the Brock houses up in
Mhm.
Alaska and done a lot of that stuff. He's done some stuff with Chris B. He's done some stuff with John Dudley. So he kind of knows,
Where to be.
when to be quiet or when to stay back or, all those kinds of things. So he was really, really good about that. So at no point was I really too concerned about whether he was going to add any noise or
Yeah.
any possibility of spooking a deer.
Nice. Yeah,
So it
it's
helps
always
to
a
have a good
beautiful
crew.
dance.
Yeah.
So I guess kind of with that, just kind of wrapping up, like talking about the film, but with it being out and stuff like that now, it's kind of had been fun to kind of see a little bit of like the reap of the rewards. I mean, I know I'm not going to spoil the film and give any more details on it, but like it's been fun connecting with people and just like family and friends and just people you've never met that are like, dude, love the film, and just like hearing all the feedback on it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's been pretty fun. It's been great, and then to hear the feedback even from our partners,
Hmm.
I'm like, lay it on me, man. Just, if it sucked, tell me.
Hmm.
We want to know. And the feedback was great. Everybody was really happy with the end result. And, you know, I definitely would do it again. It's just a matter of, just kind of learning from what we did last time, trying to maybe make it a little bit more efficient. It was funded, but not like for Paul, you know, he's a photographer, he does this for a living, right? And so this was more of a passion project for him.
Yeah.
It covered covered a lot of our expenses and stuff like that. But if we were to really do it again, I can see how difficult it would be, because trying to get the funding that's necessary to make a film like
Yeah.
this, you'd be shocked at what the actual cost is to
I don't
make
think
a
people
20-minute
realize
film.
or can appreciate it. Like, especially, I mean, you see it. There's so many. That's the one thing I wanted to talk about earlier too. It's just like the genre that we're in right now, and like the content space is so different from where it was from the TV world, where it's like everybody's got a camera now, and it seems like everybody puts out a hunt now, and everybody puts out a film now. But is like the ones that do it right. I don't think people understand like the legwork that goes into it from like the production side, the cinematography, the photography, but not only that, the hunting, and then trying to have a successful hunt on top of all of it, and then adding the expenses of it all. It's crazy. I don't think people
Yeah.
really can like fathom what it truly is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a ton of work. And Damon did a lot of legwork on the back end, simply because he had the relationships with Sig and Go Hunt and some of those guys, and so he wanted to take that on.
Sure.
And and initially I was, obviously I'm like, hey, I'd be happy to take that stuff on, but he also has he's also creating assets for them outside of the film as well, doing other projects, doing, creating reels for them on social media and doing all that kind of stuff. And so he wanted to, he was kind of holding on to that, which I understand, but in the end, he ended up doing a bulk of the work. But he was, again, it was a passion piece, right? So he was willing to, he's just like, I don't care. Like, I don't need to get paid a ton of money to do this. He's like, I just want to make this film, and I want to do it with the partners that I work with on a daily basis. And that being, basically all of us that were partnered up were companies that he had been working with in the past. And so we're able to bring that all together. And Paul had Kairos seasoning blends that he brought into the fold. And then I knew the guys at Prime. And so we brought all that together. And again, it was great for, I think, all of the partners, all of the manufacturers. I think they all got a really good return on it, and we were able to have fun, make a really cool piece, and we just had a blast out there. We made those bonds even stronger amongst all of us as friends, and to the point where we want to do it again. So
love that.
Are you guys going back then? Obviously, same time of year.
We're not going to go as late
Okay.
this time, just because of the cold.
Yeah.
But it's going to be geared, because there's 3 of us at Vapor Trail. It's going to be difficult for us all 3 of us to be gone at the same time. Because the 3 of us pretty much run the show. So,
when's rifle
so we have to
kickoff?
try to figure out how we're going to work that out, how we're going to overlap that, or if we can, I mean, we've got guys, we could leave and it's not going to crumble. It's not going to fall apart. We've got core people there that could keep things rolling, but we just don't want to put anybody in a tight spot either.
Yeah.
So we're trying to figure that out and try to see how we can navigate that. But we will go out a little bit earlier. We'll probably go out sometime late October, I think, is the plan.
Nice. Yeah, late October, early November, probably my favorite time to chase muleys outside of like opening day.
Yeah, I've done some. I hunted, the opening weekends for several years until I finally got my buck and velvet, and then I was like, I'm done with that.
So hot.
I'm done with that. The days are so long, and the window of opportunity is shorter too, because they get up into the into the thick brush. There's still leaves on the trees, so it's hard to pick them out, in the woods. And so there's and then if you are putting a stock on, it is hot.
Oh, yeah.
It is hot. I mean, miserably hot, to the point where it's like, man, you better find some shade or you're gonna burn up pretty quick.
Well, that and the meat too. It's almost like antelope hunting.
Yeah. Yep. You got to move it quick, for sure. And then it's back when I used to do it, it wasn't as bad, but now on the opener, there's a lot of people too. You run into a lot of people, but again, it's just, I've always liked that late, just before Thanksgiving, because I feel like the bucks are rutting real hard. They always are about that time of year. And if the weather's cooperating, uh, we've the chances of success I feel are higher. There's a lot less hunters. They don't want to deal with the cold. And so those are some of the things that I like about it. But yeah, that's of all the years I've hunted out there, that last year was the coldest I've ever had to sit there. We've had a few cold years, but that one
I
was
think it's
bitter.
so wild to me how diverse the climate can be that time of year. I mean, it
Yeah.
could literally go from like a blizzard to 75 degrees.
Yep.
It's,
Yep.
it's insane.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've done some hunts in South Dakota too. Same deal, right?
Mhm.
Where it's like, okay, there's a buck over there. I want to get. Okay, it's about a mile out, so I got to hike this thing, and you get about halfway there, and all the draws and dips and things you can't see from up top, right? And so you're getting through all this stuff, and then you're just like, I'm just gonna take a nap here in the shade because
Yeah.
I am sweating. It gets pretty wild, and we're talking November, right? Like 70 degrees in the middle of the day, and you're like, what is going on here? So
That's awesome.
What would you say, kind of before we change gears here, as far as what would be your just like go-to piece of advice for somebody that's just getting started or trying to get out to, whether it's one of the Dakotas or even further west, chasing big mule deer?
ooh, um, that's a good question.
Or maybe
And
before you go in, because that's pretty broad, but like, where would you tell them to start? Is that e-scouting? Is that just boots on the ground?
yeah, so I was trying to when I was sitting there thinking, I was trying to come up with something that isn't just like super obvious or cliche, right? Like I'm trying to
Shoot
give
your
like a
bow.
genuine
Yeah.
like, piece of Ricky Brule advice.
There you go.
Um, and it's hard, it's hard to come up with something that it's hard to not regurgitate things that you
Yeah.
hear other people say. And so, but as far as like getting started, if to go based on like how I started, it was I went out with somebody who knew what they were doing.
Hmm.
And so that accelerated my learning curve tremendously. And so I think that was a big part. Like he had done a lot of e-scouting prior. And e-scouting was limited back in, well, we're talking like 2006, 2007 is when I first
Google
started going
Maps.
out. We had, Garmin GPSs that was just a little arrow, and topos. That's all you had as far as navigation, right? And so, but definitely, some e-scouting. But if you can get with somebody who kind of knows an area or that can kind of take you under their wing and you can watch them, that's a big thing. Every single year I go out, it takes me a little bit to remember what I'm looking for, right? Like you could glass the hillside, right? And my buddy Nate is, he lives out there, so he knows what to look for all the time, right? He's picking out the deer long before I can even find them. And so again, it takes a minute to go, okay, oh yeah, that's right. That's what I'm looking for. Now I know. Um, now I know as far as like when I'm girding off the hill and I'm glassing, like what to look for, what to see, and then also just watching them work. When I went out with my buddy Ben, just watching him put stocks on. And it's funny because he tells me now that even back then he was like, we were just haphazardly going in and chasing after everything, and we were just playing the odds game, right? But that's how you learn, right?
Yep.
And so I think that's huge. The first time I went elk hunting, I went with a seasoned elk hunter who knew what was going on. And I think again that really accelerates the learning curve because you can watch all the YouTube videos you want, and it's not to say that that's not going to be helpful. Definitely do as much research as you possibly can, but being there with somebody who knows what they're doing is huge.
Yeah, it's
If they're
awesome.
willing to take you to their spot,
Yeah.
that's the other ticket. Because
Yeah.
nowadays, boy, those waypoints are coveted.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Are
So
you always going back to like the honey hole? Are you the type of person that likes to just keep venturing as far as the horizon can go and try new spots every year?
we usually always try some new stuff.
Yeah.
but of course, you got to check out
Yep.
the tried and true,
Yep.
right? But
Mhm.
I have made the mistakes of banking on honey holes before where I've
Mhm.
wasted multiple days
Yeah.
because it's just like there's got to be something in here. And then after 3 days, you're like, okay, we got to move on. We just wasted a couple of days. So now uh, I'm I'm more about checking multiple locations, and scanning it. And last year was not a good example of that because the first spot we hit was where we wanted
Yeah.
to be. We
Yep.
had three good shooter bucks in that area. And so there was no need for us really to go anywhere else except for like I said, when the weather shifted, the wind shifted, suddenly they were gone. And I knew they were there. We just couldn't get eyes on them. And so we just started exploring and going to some other spots. But yeah, I'm always up for looking for something new. But we'll look at the tried and true first. Right? I don't want to spend
Nice.
any more time than I need to.
And
What's
are you?
your? Oh,
Oh, go ahead.
sorry. I was
Go
just
ahead.
saying, what's your timeline as far as like if you're giving a new place a sniff, as far as like calling it and being and moving on to the next spot? Like, if is it like a day's worth of solid hunting, or before you're backing out, or and then what would keep you there?
Well, I mean, obviously, if you're seeing deer, even
Mm-hmm.
does are really the key, right?
Mhm.
Because where they are, especially if you're hunting the rut,
Mm-hmm.
if there's does in there, there's probably going to be some
Yeah.
bucks coming through at some point. So that's going to be the key. That's going to be the thing that's going to hold me. And I'll try to. You have to kind of play it by ear, and I think experience plays a big role in that.
Sure.
But I'll usually try to give a spot a day, or what we'll do is we'll go to that spot in the morning, and if we're not seeing much, then we'll go to a different spot in the evening, and then we'll flip flop it. So
Mm,
then you'll go back to that spot in the morning, and then go back to the first morning spot in the evening. Just to see kind of how the movement patterns are changing
sure.
from day to night. And so that's usually kind of how I like to play it out if we're but I don't want to give it too much time. If I've done a morning sit and an evening sit and I haven't seen anything, I'm done.
And so this one's maybe a little bit more in depth, but I think it's relevant just because I think the first year I went out there mule deer hunting out in South Dakota, I haven't drawn a North Dakota tag yet, but just speaking South Dakota in particular, we'd go out that week before rifle or West River rifle would kick off primarily, and we wouldn't see anybody. This is 2011, 2012, all the way
Hmm.
up to maybe like 2015. You'd see a guy or two, but I feel like really in the last 6 years, that whole Western atmosphere of hunting is just skyrocketed with people, which is awesome. It's fun seeing that many people get out, but it obviously complicates some things, when you're trying to go out and chase deer. Like, how do
Yeah.
you get away from people? We talk about in the whitetail woods all the time. You're hunting people, trying to hunt their sign and get away from them and go where the deer are. Like, how do you apply that for like Western culture for bow hunting?
Well, I think part of that is the time of year, like we talked about a little bit before. I see the benefit of going out opening, during
Mm-hmm.
the early season, because it can act as a good scouting trip as well if you're not able to get out earlier. Although I usually don't see the same deer
Yeah.
early season that I do late season. So but I'll usually find a couple of good sheds. So that's always
That's
good.
always just a bonus shed, like just
Yeah.
makes a day.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one of the big benefits of going out early is, because if you don't find them at, that opening week or whatever, then someone else most
Yeah.
likely is going to find them. But yeah, I think, the time of year, that's like I said before, why I like to go later in the season. I think it, there's less hunters likely to go out. North Dakota, in the area where I hunt, it's very difficult to draw a rifle tag in those areas, even for
Mm,
residents. And so I think that kind of keeps the population down low too. I've never really ran into a ton of hunters out there.
that's nice.
Even when I was out there, like, early season, you know, or opener, 20 years ago, I wouldn't run into a ton of guys. But I've heard, like, more recently, it's pretty wild, to the point where the state is actually thinking about having people apply for specific
Oh,
zones,
really?
because there's some that are more heavily populated than others, which I'm a proponent of that.
Mhm.
I agree with that. I feel like if you want a greater chance, you can apply for a zone where maybe less people are applying for. If you really want to get into the areas where naturally those areas are more populated because there's more deer
Yeah.
and the quality of deer are better. And so, but I'm a proponent of that. But I think that would help kind of reduce the crowds a little bit too if they
Mm.
kind of change that up. But yeah, I don't know. It's a tough subject for me. You know what I mean? Because I want to recruit people. I want more people to shoot a bow.
Yeah.
I want people to understand the the health benefits that you can get from it. You know, and everything that comes with it. But then at the same time, it's like, wow, you get a lot of people out here. I
Getting
don't know
into
what
my spots.
I don't know what to think about that. But then when it comes to the public land stuff,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
that was huge for us. If we didn't have as many people participate in that,
Right.
That was a fun
we
thing to
might have
see.
lost that battle.
Yeah, no, that was definitely a this past spring. It was fun to see kind of everybody rally together behind that and really kind of put their foot down and jump on it. I mean, who knows what it would have been, but it's not. So
Yeah.
we're still here. But I feel like this is kind of a good spot. We can kind of transition a little bit, and you alluded to it a little bit there, just with the health benefits of things.
Yeah.
When I think of getting out west, and you've talked about it pretty much this whole podcast already, like being out in the prairie and being out, west of the Missouri, like, man, it's just a magical place if you've never been there. I mean, seeing the stars at night, the creatures that are out running around, being on the river, it's incredible. But
Yeah.
just tell me, like, just from, like this kind of part of what we do at the podcast too, just getting more in kind of the faith based and the spiritual side of stuff. I mean, just being in those moments of solitude and silence, like what is that for you for just mental health and just therapy?
It's I feel the best opportunity that you have to talk to God.
Mm.
Because it can be difficult with all the noise, like I
Mhm.
talked about before. You know what I mean? Like, I try my best to dive in as much as I possibly can. I actually started in the Bible app. I started trying to do a 365-day get through the Bible, right?
Nice.
So I would listen on my drive to work. But in order to do that, you have to it's a lot. It's probably a solid 40 minutes a day that you have to listen to in order to get through the entire Bible in 365 days. And as you know, there's parts of the Old Testament
Oh
that
yeah.
are,
Rough.
I'm gonna be honest,
Grindy.
they're painful. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's painful. But uh but yeah, as far as like, the spirituality thing goes, it, you know, sitting in a tree stand, that's when I get like the best time.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Where I can just really just be able to talk about whatever, and it's it took me a while to kind of realize that. I grew up in the Catholic Church. I was confirmed, all those kinds of things. I stepped away from all that when I went to college. I mean, this is probably a pretty typical story for, you know, any of us born in the 80s or
Mhm.
whatever, but I got to a point where I was struggling and I had somebody reach out and invite me to church, and I've always had faith, and I've always had a bit of, I've always felt like when I've been in a tough spot, I find myself praying,
Yeah.
Mm.
right? But I find myself praying only when I need it,
Mhm.
you know. And so, but when I got invited to church, I started going regularly, and I just really started to see things change, as far as like just the direction of my life. I don't want to say luck, but it just,
Yeah.
I started to realize all the blessings that I've had throughout my life that I didn't see. It's
Mhm.
like the footsteps in the sand, right? Uh, and so then I really started to dive in a little bit deeper, and my dad got sick, and so through that process, there was like a lot. Trying to think of the right word. Just just all the things that go through your head, right?
Yeah.
Like, this
Mm-hmm.
is my hero, and he's going through these things, and how do I get through this? And how do I, and for me to get invited to go to church somewhere around that time, uh, and then without getting too deep into the story, and I feel like I feel weird telling this story because, but the largest buck that I've taken was honestly a godsend. Like,
Mm.
I needed that bad. Like, I was in a rough spot at that point in my life. And for me, all those years to be hunting and all those times spent out in the woods and for it to happen the way that it did, it was just like, that was it right then and there. I knew right then and there. I was like, all right, now I know God's speaking to me.
Mm.
Now I know what he's saying. I can finally hear, because you always have those moments where you doubt because you're like, well,
Mhm.
I hear people say that, they have conversations with God, but I don't hear him speaking to me. I don't see it. But
Right.
you start to see God speak to you through other people and through experiences and through all those things. You start looking back on your life and you see all these moments where he was there with you,
Mm.
And so I try to embrace that and just know and understand too that, uh, I think it took me a while to realize that just because you're a sinner doesn't mean that you can't be. Uh,
Saved.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Again, trying to come up with a word that
Yeah, man.
is, but yes, I mean, it's so, and then, the way that I met my wife and my daughter and my family and my kids and just the way everything is all coming together. It's not a coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be. And so it just helps me to dive in even deeper.
Yeah.
Mm. Love that.
So,
Why do you think it made me kind of think of my own personal life too about what you were talking about there? Why do you think it's so easy for us to like put our guards up when it comes to, talking about our faith or, getting into that mentality of, woe is me or why me? And then it almost like it's harder to like have that point in your life where you are at rock bottom and then that's when you finally get that peace that you're looking for, whether it's like what you went through with, with what was going on with your dad, and then you had that moment in time where you harvested a buck. What do you think that is?
boy, it is very common, right? It is a
Mm-hmm.
very common thing to, when you really start, when you have to go through that storm, right? And then
Mm.
I feel like it's just because you get to a point where you're like, nothing works. Nothing around me is working. The people around me are not working. I have a dad,
Mm-hmm.
right? I have a father. Um, but for whatever reason, you know, y- maybe you don't feel like you can confide in some of those things because they won't understand, or maybe you know what I mean? God always understands,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what. You know what I mean? Like, it
Yep.
doesn't matter what you're going through. It doesn't matter if you did something wrong. It doesn't matter, what you have going on in that moment. It's God always understands. God always forgives.
Mhm.
And so I feel like you people get to a point where they have no other option, no other resort. And then when you start to dive deeper into that and into the word, you s- I I mean, I've heard the stories and I'm sure you guys have too, like story story after story of people like climbing their way out of the gutter
Mm-hmm.
from that point on because of that deep dive into their faith and that understanding and proclaiming that Jesus died on the cross and was resurrected
Mm.
for us, for our sins. Because when you really look deeply at it, when I learned about all that kind of stuff, going to Catholic school and all that, it just seems like it's like a cultural thing. I don't know if, well, I shouldn't say cultural thing, but it's just something that's ingrained in you from when you're a child. So you don't really understand the gravity of what it means for somebody to go through that amount of pain and that amount of struggle.
Yeah,
Uh,
you kind of take it for granted.
Mhm.
yeah. And then when you really think about it And if I was to put myself in Jesus's shoes when he went through all of that, it's like heartbreaking to think about. Could I do that? Would I do that? I don't know if I could.
Mm.
I don't know. You know what I mean? And so that, to me, that's a clear indication that he truly is the Son of God. And he
Amen.
did that for us. And we need to honor that.
Mhm. Preaching, man.
That's good.
Yeah.
What would
That's
your
good.
message? What would your message be to somebody that's going through the shit right now and looking for that light?
Man, I know people that are just like, it's hogwash.
Mm-hmm.
I know people like that right
Yep.
now, that if I was to say that, that's what they'd tell me.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to, it has to happen. Something has to happen that's going to flip the switch. And I don't know what that is. And it's not always going to be, somebody in your face telling you how it is, right? I think it's testimonials, and it's knowing people, right? Because that was part of my faith journey. Was all of a sudden I started going like every Sunday, and I'm like looking around me, and all these people that I know, I'm like, man, I had no idea. I didn't know that you were a follower. I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden you're like, okay, all right. So you start seeing it, and you're like, okay, well, this is great. And you start having these conversations with people, and it's like, man. So I think you got to open up to it. I think you got to open up your mind to it. And I don't know, maybe it's not necessarily my belief system or your belief system that is the answer, but if you can have a belief system, something, anything, someone to talk to that will always be able to understand what you're trying to say, and what you have going on, and what you're going through. And maybe it's not the God that I believe in, but start somewhere, find something. I have a friend, he's Buddhist, saved his life.
Mm.
So there's that testimonial that makes me kind of go, well, if it can save his life, I feel like it can save others too. And I don't know, if you guys have ever read the book. The heck. It's about the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu.
Mm.
And it's about their friendship. A Buddhist and a Catholic bishop, archbishop. And it's just an incredible book about how it's just all about love.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about love. And I almost need to stand up, and why can I not remember? Give me a second. It's the Book of Joy.
Book of Joy. I'm going to make a note of that.
Great book. If you're struggling, read that book.
Mm. I think you hit on a key piece there, man, is the whole love aspect. And I mean, like, when you start reading through, obviously, especially like the Gospels and talking about Jesus and stuff, he wasn't just preaching to one belief system, right? He was preaching to the Gentiles. He was preaching to the Jews, to the Romans, to you name it. He didn't care, And I think that's something that this world desperately needs, is just people to be more accepting and like just love each other instead of just constantly being at each other's throats all day long, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
amen to all that. And both preaching. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Since
it's the best part about all of it, though. I feel like, and you know what, Ricky, you kind of hit it on the head too. It's like I truly believe it, that God speaks to all of us in our own unique way, if that's just a gentle whisper, or if that is just smacking you on the head with a 2x4 trying to like get you back in the line. But like there's so many different aspects, but like it brings us all back to that centric system, which you guys just said, and it's love. I mean, that's everything.
Yeah.
So no, that's awesome.
Yeah, and since I'm giving out book recommendations, there's one more.
Let's hear it. I love it.
If you haven't read, it's called Wild at Heart by John
Oh,
Edwards.
it's got it on my shelf right here. I'm just about to start his
I did the audiobook twice. I didn't read it.
Nope. I think it's the Wild Heart. I think it's his second book.
One? Yeah.
Yeah, that's on my next list.
Super good book.
I'm just finishing up wow, I'm blanking on names too. It's getting late. But finishing up another great book, and then it's I don't know, for me I'm probably like you, Ricky. I love to read, and it just gets me that peace and kind of those answers sometimes that you're looking for.
Yeah, and in all fairness, I haven't completely gotten through the Book of Joy yet. I just have the sleeve here, but me and my wife are actually reading it together, and we've made several attempts at it, and we get to a certain point where then we get too busy, and then we have to start over. So, but from what I've been about halfway through it, and it's pretty incredible. It's just one of those things where, I've proclaimed and I've made the decision that I'm going to follow Jesus Christ. That's me. But again, I've seen firsthand, and I have friends who have found other, belief systems that have also saved them. And so I don't want to discredit that. That has created some heat with some other people. So I'm always kind of hesitant to talk about it because, for some people that's blasphemy. And ultimately in the end, like we said, it's all about love. So
love that. I do got one quick thing though, and we always do this in closing out our podcast. Especially, it's fun just hearing from all of our different guests though.
Yeah,
we have Luke. I don't know if you have any keyed up or loaded up for you. I've got a couple in my mind. I'm gonna hit you with like 5 rapid fire questions here.
Oh boy.
Before we close it up, quick ones. So
I was taking notes as we talking, so I got some.
Okay. So I'll run it off first. I'll kind of kick it off with a pretty typical one. So the first one is you're on the road traveling. Doesn't matter what state it is. What is your go-to gas station drink and snack? If that's early morning or in the evening or whatever it is.
Early mornings, coffee, black.
Okay. Black coffee.
Dark.
Love it.
Dark. Nothing, no cream, no sugar.
Preaching.
Yeah.
It's the only way to have coffee.
But. Yes.
Yeah. And I can't do Folgers coffee. I can't, none of that. I'm kind of a snob. But and then snack. Oof, let's see. So many. On the road, it's gonna be ranch flavored sunflower seeds.
Ooh.
That's a first. I don't think we've had that. That's good.
Because if I'm getting tired, then I'll like crack a shell like one at a time, and then throw it out the window.
Yeah.
And that motion and that activeness
keeps
me awake. So
nice. Yeah. Okay. So next one, you get 2 pieces of kit outside. We're talking Western mule deer hunting now. Outside of your bow, outside your binoculars, backpack. That's your typical stuff. Boots. What are 2 pieces of kit you cannot leave camp without? It could be a snack.
A Western hunt?
Yes, it could be anything.
Probably gonna be wildlife research wipes.
Nice.
Gotta have the wildlife research wipes for sure.
Yep.
Because I don't need to get into detail with why
I know what you mean. I've lost one too many socks.
Or a sleeve off your shirt.
Yeah.
But that's always gonna be a go-to for sure. I'm literally going through my pack right now and trying to get other things outside of the normal gear. Gotta have gotta have some jerky.
Okay.
Gotta have some jerky. That helps me, like, like not the Jack Links, like super
Real jerky.
supple, like,
Yeah.
you know, whatever. It's got to be like some straight hard, and like you gotta rip it off of there. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because like when you're sitting there glassing, I could be occupied with one small piece of jerky for hours, just pulling little tiny pieces off at a time. So it kind of keeps me busy too.
I wish I had that willpower. It would be gone in seconds. Not a chance. Okay, so last one I've got for you. So let's just say that you somehow magically, just since you drew you drew 2 tags now, you won the lottery basically. So let's just say you won the lottery. You can go on any hunt that you wanted to go on and chase any animal with your bow. What is that going to be?
One hunt.
One hunt. One to
One
rule them
hunt.
all.
Oof. I'm going to Kodiak.
Ooh.
Bow?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
Of course, bow.
Yeah, I'm going to Kodiak. Get me a big bear.
Come on. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it was that, or the other thing I was thinking is like maybe like red stag in the Netherlands or
That'd be
something
cool.
like that.
Or like a tar or something.
That'd be kind of
Helicopter
cool.
flying.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, someday I'd like to go to Africa on some African animals, but I figure I'll do that when I can't walk anymore. And they can just wheel me into the blind, and then
There
I
you
can
go.
just whack
Just start
everything. And
plinging.
yeah, I'll have all that rich retirement money that I can spend. And
I like
gotta love it. All right,
yeah.
go to size for your when you're glassing, like as far as optics.
Well, I like to do two things. I'll have a spotter. Um, and then as far as my my chest rig is going to be a 12x42.
Okay. Nice.
I like a 12x42 because it gives me a wider field of view. And then I've got more area that I can kind of scan all at once. And then if I see something, then I can start to pick the hill aside or pick the hill apart a little bit more, and then pull out the rangefinder to get a further, closer, more detailed look.
Nice. Are you
last year I had the 14x50 Sig Zulu 6s, and it was just too big. They're really big, really bulky. And so I switched over to the 12x42s, just the standard.
Yep. Nice. Are you a fixed blade or mechanical guy?
I actually use both.
Okay.
I shoot a Grim
Nice.
Reaper micro hybrid, so it's both fixed and mechanical.
Perfect.
But it's funny, you might want to go take a look. We did just do a broadhead test on our podcast. The episode launched today, actually.
There we go.
But we did. So I do have some fixed blades, Magnus buzz cuts, Magnus Black Hornets. Then I've also got the German Kinetic Silver Flame,
Never heard
which I don't know if you ever heard of that. But
no.
That's a ridiculously expensive broadhead.
Is it like is it a single bevel?
No, it's a double bevel. They're a lot like a double bevel iron will.
Oh, okay.
But it's vented, and they're made in Germany. But I actually had the original founder of Vapor Trail was shooting them, and it's because one of their German Kinetics is also owned by a company called Redneck Point, and they're a distributor in Germany, and so we would ship them product. So we had a relationship with them, and they said they would send us some broadheads. And when I hunted elk in Idaho, you can't use a mechanical head, or at least you couldn't then. I don't know about now, but so I had to have a fixed blade, so I got those. But they're ridiculously expensive. They're about $110 for a 3-pack US.
Anything German made is good though.
Yeah, I mean
it's quality.
Yeah, I mean I ripped that broadhead through an elk and 2 grouse, and I could still probably
Nice.
shoot a deer with it.
Dang.
Easy.
That's gotta love that.
Yeah.
All right, last one. What if you pulled up, if you're, I don't know if you're a Spotify guy, but if you pulled up your Spotify, what would be like the first or couple artists that would pop up?
Oh, right now,
Yeah.
um, we've been jamming some old school stuff. Beastie Boys,
Nice.
House of Pain.
Yeah.
What was the other one? Trying to think. Our 13-year-old, he's really into like hip hop and stuff, but he likes a lot of like, well, I guess it's weird to say classic rock, but like Pearl Jam,
Oh man.
all of that
Yeah.
kind of
There you
stuff,
go.
you know.
Yeah.
So we've
Perfect.
been jamming a lot of that kind of stuff. So yeah,
Cool.
that's
Awesome.
what I've been listening to. But then also like a lot of Brandon Lake
Mm,
recently. Zach Williams,
sure.
Cody Jinks.
Cody Jenks is really good.
Yeah.
Love it, man.
Nice. It's always interesting. That's a good one, Luke. We haven't had that one in a while. It's always just like, what do you listen? You'd be so surprised. It's just like, man, I would not have guessed that.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's impossible to just say one. Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No way.
There's so many. I mean, I could go on. I have a very diverse library of music.
Yes.
Nice.
Same.
So, yeah.
Cool. Well, we just wanted to tell you thank you so much for taking time out of your night and hopping on and telling us kind of just your story. I mean, like we're so blessed that we get the opportunity just to even do this. And we're so thankful that you hopped on and got to learn a little bit about more about you, and excited to see what's to come this fall. And yeah.
Yeah. Likewise. I really appreciate it. It means a lot. You know, and I'm honored to be on the podcast. You know, I've been, listening to your guys' stuff for the last probably month or so, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah. Appreciate
Is when I first caught on. I don't know how I don't know where I saw it, or if you guys started following me and I saw it, or what, but just started diving into that. And so I appreciate what you guys are doing too, you know, spreading the faith, man. I love it.
Thank you. Appreciate that,
Yeah,
man.
appreciate it. Cool. Well, guys, thanks for listening to this episode, and we'll catch you next week.
Thank you for joining us on this journey through faith in the great outdoors. We hope today's episode has inspired you to seek God's presence in the wilderness and deepen your connection with nature. If you enjoyed today's discussion, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to the Wild Faith Podcast on your favorite platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. By subscribing, you'll never miss an episode, and you'll continue to be a part of the Wild Faith Podcast community. We'd also love to hear from our listeners, so please don't hesitate to reach out with your questions, comments, or topic suggestions. You can connect with us on social media or through our website. Your feedback is important to us and helps us improve and tailor our content to better serve you. And always remember, the great outdoors isn't just a playground for hunting and fishing. It's a sanctuary for finding solace and spiritual renewal. As you gear up for that next adventure, I pray you find God's presence in the crackling of a campfire, the thrill of reeling in your catch, or the quiet solitude found in nature. Until next time, thank you for listening to the Wild Faith Podcast. Take care, and God bless.